Hey y'all, it's your girl Sia, and I'm back with another video. Y'all, I hope y'all don't mind. I think I'm gonna make this a series until I get out everything I want to say about this situation. Um, and hopefully, there's something someone can take away from this. I know there's a big dynamic between men and women and how women think versus how men think. But I sometimes wonder if any of that really matters. Like, I understand in the art of, trying to get someone to do what it is that you want them to do or behave in certain ways. However, I think some things are just kind of they're so common sense that they're kind of non-negotiable, right? When it comes to dealing with people. Um like I told you guys, this has been the second relationship that I walked away from. It's been 5 years since I kind of had to go through some retraining in my head about how I saw relationships and how I maneuvered in relationships. And I'm still learning, right? We're all still growing in terms of our own personal journeys. Some of us are unwilling to grow, and others are growing whether they want to or not, right? And so this is kind of an ever evolving thing. However, this is why I keep people in my life that I know benefit my life. And I know that's jacked up. I don't mean to say it like that. But hopefully I'm benefiting theirs in some way, right? That's the goal. But when your relationships hold you accountable, when they keep you in a position of always remembering what's right, it's so helpful. Okay. And this is why I could never, unless like I could never just willingly give up on people or just be done with people who have really added value to my life. It's just very hard to do. And I've come to learn in my life that a lot of times it don't matter what the gender is. You may grow up. I grew up not having people that really, really had my back, right? And so when I know that God has sent people and they come in all forms, all races, all shapes, sizes, it don't matter. When God sends me somebody to help me to grow along my path, that's a person that I will always show a level of respect for, always be in contact with as much as I can, always love that person at a deeper level than I think people understand. Because when you really value someone who has your back, supports you, loves you, and it didn't matter who you were, right? Well, I've always been the same person, but I've had my ups, my downs, my lefts, my rights, right? I've had so many issues in terms of just the last 5 years of where I've had to show who I am, my personality, my breakdown. Like, people have seen me, like these people have seen me in what I feel is my authenticity. Authenticity. Y'all, I don't know if I'm saying that, but y'all know I'm pretty authentic when I'm given the space to be authentic. And so to know that these people supported me, like, no matter what, that's rare. I don't care how the relationship looks. It's rare to find people like that. And I am a loyal person. And so I try my best to remain, do what I feel like God will want me to do, right? In those situations. Okay. Um, I titled this Head Over Heart because my old roommate used to tell me, man, you got to keep your head when you're dealing with men, you got to keep your head over heart. Like, you got to have your head, think with your head, not your heart. I would tell him, but I have feelings. And he would tell me, I don't give a about your feelings. Like, them things don't matter. Head over heart, right? Um, So I'm looking at, women, we tend to do a lot of reflection. I don't know about a lot of women because I don't know. I'm only one woman, but I know that I tend to do reflection a lot of myself, no matter what the circumstance is. So I'm always thinking, always wondering, like, could I have done this better? Or, what could I have done to be, was I my best self? Did I show up as my best self? I'm always reflecting, right? Because I always want to get better. And I want to be clear, that's not in a regretful way, by the way. It's not in a way where it's like, dang, I regret walking away from the relationship because I, didn't do this or that, or I could have done this better. Like, I don't really think like that. I think when I was younger, probably. But because I understand right from wrong, and I'm never going to waver on right from wrong, no matter how my feelings may appear or may rise in me. I try to do the right thing as much as I can. And I believe in my karma, big time, because I've seen it. I've seen it, right? So for me personally, I reflect more so because if I'm ever to get in a relationship where, this is the right person, I want to be able to be my best for that person, right? But I think to some degree, common sense is really in play when it comes to relationships and how you're treated in a relationship. And the biggest thing I go back to is you got to learn to treat others the way you want to be treated, right? So, for example, if I do something that makes the other person mad, especially when you're first dating, I mean, even past the first year, you're still getting to know one another, right? And so, in that learning experience, if somebody does something you don't like, to get mad and to start yelling at them and cursing at them, it's just, in my opinion, as long as it's not like basic shit, like, being blatant disrespectful, meaning you can find how that's disrespectful, like in the diction, like you can use words that are articulate to explain why you're upset and how, and have a level of, I guess, I don't know, intellect to be able to really give the person an example for, like, it's got to be logical. There's a lot of that. What I mean by this, I don't know how to explain it. Is I'm trying to find words to put it in without sounding too mean or whatever, harsh. But I really feel like people use this word disrespect as a means to cop out of their own bullshit. Okay. Um, and then on other hands, I do believe people are really being disrespectful where the behavior is sort of being gaslit. So it's like we call one thing disrespect, and that's not necessarily disrespect. But when it's blatant disrespect, there's no accountability, there's no acknowledgement, right? So with people, there's a lot of people who think that, okay, because this person, let's say I didn't like you, I cleaned my house, you came over, we're eating, and you spilled something on the floor. That's not a reason for me to start screaming at you and yelling at you, right? I could be angry, I could be a bit annoyed, I could be a bit upset, but I'm not going to just start screaming at you and yelling at you and whatever, right? And I hate to say it like that, but there's a lot of scenarios where I think people, they mm, they do not give a proper response towards the things that they feel are disrespect, and they're not objective, meaning they're not using their heads to really understand if they were actually to be objective enough to see it from the other person's point of view, while still getting their point across as if, I guess, how they feel, right? um it's not enough people like that. And it takes a level of mental strength. And I know that sounds crazy because it does. Certain situations I can go back and say, you know what? If I was in that person's shoes, I get it. I would get why I would do X, Y, and Z. But I also learn from my mistakes. So it's harder to empathize, but I do have empathy in the sense that I've been there before, right? We all make poor choices. We all slip up. We all do things that make someone else mad. But the bottom line is if you're going over the top with your anger, like you're really on 10, and the person sometimes, like for me, I don't take a lot too serious. I am a serious person, but I don't take a lot of, how can I explain it? I don't take a lot personal. And I think it's contrary to what people think about me because I'm very in tune with my emotions, but I don't care. There's a lot of things that I don't care about. I don't find to be a big enough issue to fight about, a big enough issue to have all this drawn out drama behind. I just don't see it like that. My issues are mainly about principle. When I feel upset, it's about the principle. It means that for me, this is who you are. And these are aspects of you or the situation that I will know that I could never change. I know this argument about how men change when they get with the right woman, women change when they get with the right man, but there are certain characteristics of a person that will never change no matter what. And as the person that's going to be there for them, you have to decide if you're going to deal with these behaviors. The one thing I know I will never tolerate, see, because I know I can be mean at the mouth, I don't tolerate verbal abuse. 9 times out of 10, the man is the one who's starting that shit. The man is the one who's cussing me out. You know what I mean? The man is yelling at me. And then when I finally get to a point where I don't want to do this anymore, I'm tired. And again, I'm just learning how to walk away. Now I want to be the woman watching my 40s. I'm gonna be bad because I'm gonna be the girl that nope, I'm gonna walk away before we even have this conversation. Before I feel like I even need to get there, but it takes time. See, walking away, being able to walk away from someone who's not treating you right. Like I said, I know I should have left a lot sooner. I should have left sooner, but things didn't quite happen that way. You know, I had met this man, I think, when did I meet? The end of July. We went on dates. The dates were kind of, interesting to me. I may or may not just dissect that. But I noticed I was drinking more than I ever drunk in my life on a regular basis because I was with this person. And meaning that we would go out and do things, but it always included alcohol. Even down to where I went to his mom's and his mom would be like, "So you're not going to have a drink with us?" And I'm just like, so I had to eventually tell them I feel pressured. Like I'll have a drink as I want to have a drink. But you ain't going to pressure me into being drunk. You know what I mean? All the time. That's a red flag. That's a red flag in my personal opinion because what I started to realize is when you're not drinking, do you even like this person? Why do you dread going to see them? Right? This is less than 3 months in the relationship. But keep in mind, like I said, I'm thinking this man says he, wants to be with me. We're going to work this out. It's going to work, all this extra stuff. Nah, not at all. Found out he didn't want to post me on Facebook. And it was weird because I'm actually a fly chick, you know what I mean? And I was just like, okay, you don't want to post me. That's cool, I guess. But it wasn't cool to me after a while because we've been dating for some time. Why is it that you don't want to post me? Ended up trying to post me around his birthday or Father's Day or something, and I think it was Father's Day. And I was just like, no, don't post me. If you ain't been posting me all this time, you ain't gonna have me on your social media looking stupid. No, sir. Don't be posting me. So I made it very clear he was not to post me. There were a lot of things that I saw, but that was like later on in the relationship, by the way. There were a lot of things that I saw in this relationship that my mind just said, nah, something's not right with this picture. Um, After Thanksgiving, I mean, obviously Thanksgiving should have been a reason to leave. Like I just thought I mean, no offense. I've been to many people's Thanksgivings in my lifetime. And I've never had someone whose Thanksgiving was like that. I never met strangers. Like I've met people who I don't know that may or may not have liked me, but I didn't know. So it was weird to have a drink thrown on me, all of that, because I think some of that is internal hatred. The woman was twice my age. She ain't twice my age, but she got a few years on me, maybe 7 years. And I'm still pretty, I'm still young. I've got my life together, my daughter's together for the most part. Like I've got my life together. I feel like I'm the kid, and I know this sounds crazy that some parents they be wanting, right? I'm just saying, like that's jacked up. But when it comes to the people I've met, sometimes, especially when I meet the older folks, they love me because this is kind of how they wish their kid turned out. if that makes sense. So I was almost everything what I believe is what this woman probably once wanted to be. And I'm not even there yet, right? Um, and so I think some of that was an internal hatred. Like, you're gonna attack me, which I get her comment, but I'm also looking at it as you're attacking me because you don't necessarily like to see what you see before you, right? Especially if I'm a fuck up, right? So I didn't really, I understand. I have my heart goes out to Black women, especially because I know there are certain things we're not taught in the household that we need to be taught. But this individual, I had to look at it like this, when it comes to the relationship, he wants a woman that is like his mom. His mom is 70 something years old and in a abusive relationship by his dad. Okay. And I think he's equated love when it comes to women, that means no matter what I put you through, you're always going to stay, no matter what. And I think that that's a false notion. I just think that even this woman, his mom tells me all the time, if I didn't have kids by this man, I would have left a long time ago. So the woman, she's not happy. She's married, she's not happy. She's said that many, many times in front of him. So it's one of those things where I look at my life and I'm like, is this what I want for my life? Right. No matter how much I think I love this individual, which when a woman checks out, man, that love, it's like, I love you, but it's a different kind of, it don't, how can I say this? You're losing, it's almost like you're separated from the person while you're with them. Right. Um, so I think he really wanted me to be more like his mom. And I don't think he realized like I'm just not that girl. I'm I'm not. Um and as a woman, it's just kind of like, man, I've walked away from this situation knowing that it may hurt, knowing that it doesn't hurt as much anymore, but that I may feel some sort of feelings behind it. It's gonna be new for me, and I still had to make that happen for myself. Um, After that incident with Thanksgiving, I ended up buying a home, but he was in that process. I went to apply for a loan. I did my taxes, applied for a loan, and I got approved, but they were approving me for something that at the time was pretty unrealistic for realtors to feel like they could get, right? Unless I settled for a lesser home of value. Okay. I wasn't, I, it was hard. I had one realtor drop out the race, and he ended up putting me on to a realtor that he had worked with, him and his ex, excuse me, have worked with, right? And I'm thinking, okay, like the realtor was cool. The realtor did her job. She did it well. I'll probably be using her again at some point, I'm sure. Um, But that process took me late November till literally I closed on January 1st. So even though I had already felt like I gotta cut this situation off, the person was helping me to put me in position to where I was able to kind of buy a home, not financially. His claims were, well, I let you borrow $1,500. So the thing was, I got paid on a certain day every month, and I mean, happened to have it. So he asked me to pay the $1,500 a month so that I could get this house, like put the money down on the house. And then I made it a point to pay him back, which I paid him back like within like 3 days. It wasn't that long. I had the money, just gave him the full 15. He was paid off. I ended up getting my money like back, which I was super grateful for. But I still had to, I had his help during that time. And he's seen this relationship as something like that I would have to basically, I owed him something. He was always trying to pull on kind of like I guess it was probably my morals. I don't know what he called himself doing, but he used to tell me that because he paid that $1,500, that I basically trying to make it sound like I owe him my loyalty. I want to be clear about something, y'all. When I gotta pay something back, that is, I mean, yeah, you're supporting me. Okay, cool. But when you get that money back, we are even. There is nothing more that I owe you outside of that. Well, no other man could have give you $1,500. Where are you gonna find a man that's gonna give you $1,500? I never asked for the $1,500. That's the difference. He offered. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, if I know I can pay it back and you're really willing to help me, then what's up? Let's make it happen. I didn't see anything wrong with the thing. I'm just saying, anybody in the right mind would have said, yeah. Especially if I'm giving you this money back and I know it's coming, why that's a no-brainer for me in my situation. So I said, okay, cool. And I paid him his money back. But to try to get force me into someone that I'm not, he would try to use this as a means to say, well, you know what, I did something for you. So you're just, you're ungrateful. You're this, you're that. That shit wears on a woman. I don't know what kind of man thinks that shit don't wear. When you're dealing with shit and words and how people treat you over all day long, every day, it wears on a woman. So when men talk about, oh, well, she could have been more respectful and she could have been this, sometimes you got to really think if you're saying things that to tear people down, to get them to do, if you're being manipulative, because the moment you're manipulative, her disrespect is earned, period. So I'm a Pisces. I seen through this because I see things as they're happening. I know that I don't have to engage and I'm going to be 10 times more difficult. So what I would tell him was that to me, that's not support. What I had to learn was support for me was someone having my back. That was support. Someone who truly has my back, who wants to lift me up, build me up, not tear me down for their own personal reasons. No. So he helps me out. I get my house, then I lose my job, right? This is how this stuff works. What he told my boss was in December, I remember my boss hiring a bunch of people, wanting me to train them, and then I was let go. So that was like towards the end of January when I was let go. It's crazy. Crazy, crazy, right? So now I'm let go from this situation, this job. And the only thing I really have to depend on was this person, right? Because now I don't have a job. He had some family that needed help, his sister, going in and out of prison or whatever, I don't know, stuck with kids that are not mine, and he thought I was just going to sit around and watch these kids, right, and just be with these kids all day every day. And I had to make it clear, this is y'all's family, y'all need to be taking care of them. I am not the girl to be stuck with no kids. I'm sorry. I was in a phase of really living my life, feeling fly, feeling happy, excited, like really loving on myself. There was no way you were going to just tie me down with a bunch of kids. That's just not what was going to happen. I'm sorry. So I made it clear, and his mom agreed, and she been watching them kids ever since. But initially, when I lost my job, that's what he thought he was going to place on me, was me watching those kids while he go make some money for him, right? Because when I really looked at it, I'm like, I'm paying, I'm still paying on my bills, I'm still paying on a mortgage, I'm having to stress about my job, deal with the fact that you are possibly the reason I lost my job, and you want me to watch some kids that are not mine? Oh, that was hard. That was hard. That was hard. That was very hard to even fathom that this man thought that that was even appropriate and or okay. But as a woman, I see how he's moving. So I have to now be extra strategic. One thing about me is I am very strategic when it comes to certain things. When I know I deserve a certain thing or two, and so I had to, even though I was saying what I was saying, right, and communicating what I was communicating. Now they're stuck with the kids. I don't want to have to be forced to watch no kids. None of that. If you need me to watch some kids, it need to be communicated. This ain't just I got a life too, right? Um, I ended up having to like I said, I told them about that. I made it clear what I would and would not tolerate for. Of course, that ended up in a argument, and a drama. But it is what it is, right? I feel like in a real in if you're not going to be willing to speak up on what it is that you feel like you deserve, you're not going to get it, right? Um, but this is also me understanding the game. I understand what you're trying to do, and I refuse. You ain't just gonna put a bunch of kids on me. You ain't gonna get me pregnant. No, sir. Right? Um, but at this time, because I had kids, I probably tolerated it for like a week. I should have never tolerated it, y'all, but I did. That's when I spoke up and said something. So I lost my job. I'm dealing with these kids. I love the kids. I love kids. They're cute, right? I don't have anything against the kid. Um, but to have to go through that experience was crazy. Okay. Finally ended up getting my job, and now being put in a position where I got the job, but now he's coming at me with, oh, well, I just want to help you out. I'll give you the phone. I just want to help you. I know that you just started your job. Like he's some good Samaritan or something, right? And I'm just given the phone. We were at dinner. There were the kids around. He hands me my iPhone, and I'm just like, okay. So I'm excited because I'm like, okay, you thought about me. But the more I thought into it, I was like, this is a bunch of BS too, right? But whatever. Um, so I was just going through certain stages of, like I said, really trying to get out of the situation. There would be times where I would probably forget about how I felt, but for the most part, how I felt stayed. Um, I think if I didn't lose my job, I would have been out the situation much sooner. If it wasn't for the house, I really would have been out of the situation much sooner. Because at that time, it was like, shoot, you know how to do this. I've never done this before. So if you're willing to walk me through it, or really, I mean, the realtor walked me through it, but if you're willing to connect me to a good realtor and be there as I'm looking at homes and stuff, like that's cool. I appreciate it. That was support in a way, right? If you're willing to loan me $1,500, cool. Like okay, cool. So there were certain aspects of it that I benefited from at the time that I benefited from it. But I don't think our relationship was supposed to go any further beyond me buying the house. I believe that God puts people in your life for a season, and a reason. And that reason is obvious, but the season was only meant until after I bought my home. So just as I'm ready to break up, I now lose my job. You know what I mean? So it was very interesting times. And he would always tell me, don't leave the relationship, like think about the bigger picture. And I would try. There's women that are out there that, are okay with certain lifestyles of men as long as a man is paying. But I'm not really benefiting from the situation as it may appear, right? I think he did the bare minimum. And a lot of what I have, as a matter of fact, everything I have is because I paid for it, you know? My TV, he kept, that's another thing. He had this TV that he was like, I'm gonna sell this TV. I'm gonna sell it to you. And it was like he was gonna sell it to me for like $700. It was more, I think mine is a 65. It was probably, I think, a 75 or something like that. I don't remember. But he's like, I'm gonna sell it to you. Okay, sell it to me for 700. Cool, I'll buy it from you. He never gives me the damn TV. I noticed that was another thing, and I brought it up too. Never gives me the TV. Keeps talking about how he's gonna bring it over to my house. Never sells me the TV. If somebody, first of all, if I'm in the mood to sell something, I want my money. So if I know my money's coming in, I'm ready to sell it. Do you understand what I'm saying? It was like he just offered things but never followed through on them. So I remember me going to Best Buy. I went and got my little 65-inch. It's nice. It's big enough for my place. And I made him, I mean, I didn't really make him, but he came and helped me with the TV, moved it in, helped me to unpack all of that. Well, not really unpack. I moved the TV out of the box. I'm the one who set it up. I think my daughter helped, to be honest with y'all, but he at least helped me bring it into the house. Okay. So it's stuff like that, like that he would do to try to, I think, string me along. But the entire time, my mind is like, well, how come I don't have the TV? And I said, he was talking stuff, telling his mom how I bought a new TV. And I said, well, I told you I bought a TV from you, but you didn't want to sell it to me. So I try to keep myself always in a space where I'm thinking pretty logical in the situation. Otherwise I would have been probably in this situation a lot longer. I should have left sooner, but my circumstances, the way they was set up, I should have left, to be honest, I shouldn't allow the job to interfere with me walking away. But I'm kind of glad I did because I didn't have to have as many expenses. Like that part is true. Like my daughter and I were always at his house to help watch them damn kids. And so that means food was included. I didn't have to do much. I did my taxes. I was able to focus on my business. He never supported my business at all, but I was at least able to focus on it enough to pay my bills. Um, but I wasn't, because I had lost my job, I had lost that security, that the feeling of security. And so it wasn't my heart that said, okay, let me stay in this, maybe a little bit. But the circumstances was like, okay, now I'm in a position where I need you. And I hated it every day, every fucking day, because I never want to be in a position where I need a man at that level. No, you can help me put together some shelves. If you want to go in on a house with me and we got a contract and both of our names are on it, like that's different. But as far as like needing a man, like to where like I don't got nowhere to live, or hell no. Hell to the no. Men are worse than women in some ways, and that is one of those things. Fuck no. So I'm dealing with this situation. I'm very, like I said, very much aware of what's happening. But I think to some extent maybe I was beat down a little bit, not physically, but mentally, right? I kept making it a priority to have to put myself first. So like there were times where I would make a point that I was going home and there was nothing he was going to be able to do about it. If you're trying to say you're not trying to control me, then this is the time to show it. And I would fight, having a fight go home, because part of that is me recharging to be the person that I was, that I am. Even my daughter said I was a little different. So I've been through some stuff with this situation, but I appreciate my mentor who always told me have head over heart, because my heart could easily go back and say, well, maybe not now, but at some point it could have went, in the wrong direction. Um, a woman, the biggest thing that she has is her heart. And a lot of times women go back because it's not just the fact that, oh, I want him. And it's also the fact that maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I'm the one at fault. So it's harder to leave when you're the one that did wrong. It's 10 times harder to walk away. And a part of me in the beginning was very curious over the relationship. So in the beginning, that's part of why I stayed. I knew that. But I just know that God had been telling me this was the wrong situation to be in, period. And in my head, I was like, okay, well, you're providing, you're a decent person at times. There's a lot of good qualities that this person may have, but then he'll do stuff when he's angry or behave in certain ways that really just make you question your whole thought process about this person. So that didn't help. um but I think a woman's heart is one of the coldest things ever because it'll trick you into believing that somebody cares about you when they don't. It'll allow you to fall for the BS that they try to pull over you. No matter what it is, your heart will try to reason with that. And if it wasn't for my ability to say, nah, I know better than this. I know that this isn't what I'm supposed to do. Like I said, when I really needed him, like when I lost my job and everything, that was tough because my mind started to doubt my own self. You know what I mean? So it didn't help that I had somebody there who probably really didn't mean me any good. Most likely didn't. So I don't believe, I really believe that this person is going to continue to go through this cycle because unfortunately, this is what we see happen time and time again with men. And it's always the woman's fault. It's always a woman's fault. It's never his fault. It's the woman did everything. It's all her fault. I told him, I said, if I gotta be painted like a villain, paint me. Because I know for a fact I'm not perfect, but this is not the relationship that I signed up for. The things that I've had to deal with in just 1 year, and then you're mad and you don't understand how I could be disrespectful. Like, I just, it wears on a woman. And so that love that you once had, you'll never get back because you're the one acting in ways that I cannot love. I just can't love. So it was head over heart. I mean, my head over heart in this situation. And even walk away now, I think he's trying to pull on my heartstrings, trying to pull on my morality, trying to get any attention because bad attention is better than good attention, right? I mean, it's better than no attention. And I know all this. So I come across very cold. I don't care. Like I'm at a point where I just listen, if this man started dating a woman tomorrow, I would not care. That's how bad, like I would not care because I feel like she's about to go through everything that I already been through. And that I don't feel like I want back. You look at your life and I'm like, okay, do I really want to spend another year with this person? Is this what I want to deal with for a whole nother year? Is this who I want a baby by? Answer was no. Is this who I want to marry? The man asked me, he said, we can go down to the courthouse and get married tomorrow. Do you want to go? And I was like, no. Every time he asked me, no. That's wild. I've never been in a space where I didn't want to get married and have kids. But in this situation, that wasn't the right situation. And the whole time I kept, talking about my intuition, how my intuition is pretty much spot on. And he would try to get me to doubt my intuition, not knowing that well, I've told him many times that my intuition is part of the reason how I was even at the level that I was for him to even acknowledge me. I'm just saying. This man unfortunately has money. And so when you're looking at it from that standpoint, now if I was in it for the money, I could still be in it. But I wasn't getting enough. It's like he's not taking care of me. It's like you're helping me out, you're taking care of me. Okay, maybe I'm at your house, you're feeding me, but I'm cooking or I'm watching kids. So I'm always returning what he's doing for me in a different way. So it wasn't like, okay, you really took over my mortgage, and now you're paying on it. Like you bought me a new car, you know what I mean? My name is on the like it wasn't nothing significant to where it changed my life. It was appreciated because certain things I could have benefited from in that time frame, but I'm still paying my bills at the end of the day. I'm the one still taking care of me, having to maintain me, not the other way around. So anything that's being done for me is really extra. It's not needed necessarily. That makes sense. So I always feel like no matter what, like this, I did my best to keep my head over my heart. Were there times where my heart led? Yeah, I can admit that. But for the most part, I knew what I was dealing with. And I guess when I really realized, one of the things my mentor told me too was people don't change, right? It takes something very significant to get a person to change. And when you realize that a person will never change, you start to understand that this is a pattern. This is something you're dealing with constantly. And it doesn't change no matter how you express yourself, no matter if you're nice, you're polite, or if you're rude and yelling and screaming, the shit doesn't change. The behavior does not change. So at some point, I got to get real with myself and ask myself, is this the person that I want to be for the next year, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or worse? If the answer is no, do I really see the pattern with this person changing? No. Then I've got to do what's best for me. You know, I got to do what's best for me. I got to put myself first, and the other person got to figure it out. So always, 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 those were the two best things, the things that I heard in my head as I was dealing with this situation over and over and over again. And as it got towards the end, my head over my heart, y'all, it became more and more of like a real thing. Like I kept thinking about it, I couldn't stop thinking about that because I knew I was disappointing the people that really helped me to get to where I'm at. I was disappointing them. So I'm glad I had that in the back of my head. I'm glad I had a plan. I'm glad I utilized that plan. Like I said, I'm out of the situation, but now I want to get out of the energy that comes with being in the situation. Um, and who knows? I mean, we'll see what happens in the future, y'all. But that's the biggest piece of advice that I've gotten. Um, since I entered into this relationship. Since before, well before, it was men who taught me this. That's another thing. Men taught me this. So there are, men that will they don't hold other men accountable, but they teach, especially men who feel like, like I said, my old roommate felt like I was his daughter. So the game that he's going to give me versus the game he may or may not give a woman that he's dating are two different things, you know? Um, I just think that I'm proud of myself because this is the second time that I've walked away. First time I've been in a relationship where I tried to make it work and I still was able to walk away. Um, and I know that if you walk away from things that are not meant for you, God will always, always open the door for something better. So I'm not trying to bash this person, right? If I was not perfect to this person, I wasn't, I can't speak for this person. But what I do know is certain levels of treatment are just non-negotiable for me. I feel like that's all a man has to offer. And in this situation, the man had the chance to prove himself when I was up, and he had the chance to prove himself when I was down. And the person he became when I was down was a person that I would hope would never be in my corner when I was down, if that makes sense. That's not a good relationship. So I try to do my best, I think. I mean, I'm pretty sure I do. Um, but I'm not a pushover. I'm not someone that's just going to let a person treat me certain type of way. And I'm learning more and more about my strength of, girl, I'm able to walk away. I'm walking away. I ain't forcing this type of situation. I want to see myself do it sooner, which I can do it sooner. Like that's not a question, to be quite honest. Um I'm pretty good with ending relationships a lot sooner. It's just this one, because it was a black man, he had himself together physically. Um, he had the life of what you would consider to be stability. He could communicate well, well, not well, but communicate enough in the moment that I was just kind of like, okay, you're rare. Like, but really the mentality is not rare, not at all. Not at all. So I tried to give it a chance. It didn't work. Um, as a woman, the biggest thing, I mean, I don't know that I've taken anything. I've always known that I'm strong willed mentally. I'm intelligent. That's the biggest thing, right? I think people play on my intelligence. I'm very calculated. That I'm a Pisces, that's what we are. I'm very calculated. So in this instance, like I said, when I know that I'm being torn down, when I know that I'm not getting the best of what I deserve, it's very hard for me to stick around. It's very hard for me to want to be in that situation. I'm no longer that girl that feels like, why can't we work this out? Can we work this out? Like maybe a few times, but when you're going through that much in 1 year with one person, like that's too much. It was just too much. And it's obvious. So that's my head over heart, man. It was, and I keep giving y'all details because, when you really look back on it, you're like, damn, like, it's just a lot of things that really made my mind just realize this ain't what I signed up for. This isn't quite what I wanted. So always have your head going, especially in relationships. Like another thing was just knowing, like that's what me and my friend would always talk about that he didn't want me to talk to, is we would talk about the scenario and both be reading the scenario the same way with the same kind of thought process. Although my friend was like, you need to leave. You got to walk away. Like this is, I know you need a car. Get that done and get the heck up out of there. Like these are the conversations that we would have. A person that's mind is kind of similar to mine, to where it's like, you know what? No, you right. Because baby, I'm trying to tell you, the way these folks be manipulating, my younger self would have been questioning myself, even though I knew what was right versus wrong. And I think that's what he thought I was. I think that's what he thought. Like, I'm just going, and especially it didn't help that I lost my job, y'all, because that's like needing somebody. Like, once you're in a need for somebody, you're dependent upon them. But I've been there, done that, not happening again. So, um, I'm really grateful. I had to pray to God and I was like, okay, what do you want me to remove? God has told me many times he needed to be removed. I didn't listen. Then I finally came to God and I said, you know what? Anybody in my life that is not supposed to be there, I need you to get rid of them. I don't care how you do it, just do it. And God did it. So it is what it is. Life goes on. I know I made the right choice. I think that's why a woman can walk away, is because we're already thinking about half of this stuff before we walk. Like we're pondering it, we're going back and forth in our heads about it. Some may talk to their friends, which I understand friends are not always right in a relationship. And their opinion shouldn't matter necessarily more than yours, but it should be taken into consideration, right? Um, if you're going to talk to them, right? If you're going to talk to your parents, parents don't always hold their kids accountable. A mom is always going to praise her son no matter what. So he knows he only needs to tell her certain things. And the mom may dislike the woman just off of the conversation as being told to her. So to me, they're not, their opinion of the girlfriend or the other half is kind of more skewed when you're talking to parents, but friends should always have an objective goal. Like if you're wrong, you're wrong. And my friends, I feel like the people in my life they can tell me that. I may not like it, but they'll tell me that. So understanding that actions matter more than words, understanding that it's not necessarily that I can say I deserve better, but I know I deserve better than some of the things I've dealt with in a relationship. A lot of things I dealt with in this relationship, actually, because that's not my first go to on how to treat people, right? That's an intention. And if I have to be like that, most likely you made me this way, and that's not an excuse. That's not tit for tat. It's just when you treat things that you love carelessly, well, then they break. And unfortunately, I'm not your crier. I don't cry anymore. I'm the girl that's going to be telling you about yourself on the at the same time figuring out how I can get out of this relationship. If I don't just snap and end the relationship then. So that's what I've been, this last year has been interesting. It's been tough. I mean, I've had good times, but not enough. Um And that's where I've been, y'all, just really trying to get out the situation. And now I've been in that phase of, okay, how do you get back into you again? How to, the things I want to do, who do I want to become, enjoying that I bought a house. What are my next steps? What are my next goals? What do I want to come out of this? So that's me putting my head over heart, and really staying focused and committed to self right now. That being said, y'all, I'm out. Peace.